The table was shaken recently by an open letter to the chairman, House Committee on Diaspora Affairs of the 10th Assembly, Sir Tochukwu Okere. The letter, authored by Collins Nweke, a Nigerian diasporan based in Belgium, seeks to acquaint the Honorable Chairman, House Committee on Diaspora Affairs, with the issues on the front burner in the diaspora, earnestly hoping that the 10th Assembly would be more responsive this time to the Nigeria diaspora. However, it was not surprising to see a counter-response to the open letter authored by Magnus Agu, but this time laced with inaccuracies and not addressing the issues raised in the first open letter. First on the list, and to leave it at just one example, is that there is no such thing as NIDO Continental. NIDO Worldwide is a collective or an assembly of all heads of continental chairpersons of NIDO, NIDO Europe, NIDO Americas, NIDO Asia, NIDO Oceania, of which they have a one-year rotational chairmanship among the members. For the 10th Assembly to be responsive this time to the Nigeria diaspora means there has to be a reflection down memory lane. The 1999 Constitution did not provide a diaspora voting, but over the years, a continuous absence of a diaspora vote in the Constitution has been questioned, and even when the opportunity to make it work came, it was surprisingly rejected.
Legislators in Nigeria who have difficulties letting their fellow Nigerians who are living outside the country and contributing immensely to the development of the country, that the question could even be asked whether they should vote or not. I think history will not remember them well. And when they go back to bed at night, I hope they will cast back their mind and think of, this sort of thing and actually begin to, think differently and act differently. This is appalling. And the time has come to call people out. The time has come to, begin to make the pendulum swing differently.
It is worthy of note, however, that out-of-country voting is an international best practice that several countries have adopted for the diaspora citizens.
Diaspora voting is fast emerging as an international best practice. Now, some analysts will tell you that there is something cultural about, out-of-country voting, where citizens of, the countries are allowed to vote in national elections, no matter where in the world they are. Some will refer to the fact that it is an ingrained practice or culture, political culture, within the francophone African countries, actually deriving from their colonial history with France, whereas in the Anglophone countries deriving from their colonial past with Britain, haven't quite embraced out-of-country voting. Well, let us assume in the worst case scenario that is the case. Well, it is only good things that you emulate, because at the heart of the argument around out-of-country voting is the fact that citizens of any country remain citizens of that country, and that it is your right to be part of the political process, whether as a candidate or even as a voter, which is why some countries in Africa, as a matter of fact, have actually gone as far as reserving some seats in their parliaments for their diaspora constituencies.
Nigeria is still struggling to understand why these people deserve the right to air their views on who rules their country. The electoral system, and I would say the electoral system aided by some corrupt legislators, has decided to retain this avoidable disenfranchisement is a dent on Nigeria's reputation. And I would say that out of 216 countries in the world, as of 2018, over 150 of them had clear, unambiguous legal framework on out-of-country voting. So why is Nigeria not among those 151 to be precise? What makes us worse than those other countries?
We have been fighting for this same issue for years. I mean, even back, as far back as 2012, I went and made a presentation to the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendment. They listened and, of course, took no action. But it is important that our leadership listens to this request of Nigerians in diaspora. We usually don't ask for much, but this is important to us. That's why we have been pressing. As a delegate to that 2014 National Conference, we even passed a resolution to that effect to have Nigerians in diaspora vote. And we also passed a resolution to create the Nigerian Diaspora Commission. That has been done, but the opportunity to vote is still being denied us. I think this is going to take an effort by the government, and I would recommend, if possible, bring together a few people from the diaspora community and some of the people in the House or in the National Assembly, so that we can all sit together, reason together, and allay their fears, because they must be afraid of something. That's why they haven't been able to address this issue up to now. But we need to talk together, reason together, and resolve this issue together.
Securing the Nigerian diaspora voting is a complex task that involves collaborative approach between various stakeholders, both within and outside Nigeria. In harnessing such potentials of these various critical stakeholders, including the executive arm of the government, National Assembly, Electoral Commission, Nigerian embassies and consulate, our technology partners and Nigerian diaspora community, among others, of which NIDO must play a crucial and leading role.
For every time you miss the opportunity to invest in real estate or engage in real estate trading, some other people are smiling to the bank and enjoying the life that they dream of because they are making the right move. That right move is what the Real Estate Cashback Cooperative Society is trying to help you make. Buy square meters of land and hold it for 12 months and you will be reselling for profit. It's even more interesting as you can get started with 500,000 Naira. You can take it as high as 5 million, 10 million, 40 million, 100 million, 300 million, 500 million, and even 1 billion Naira. Don't miss out on this real estate cashback special offer. Make sure you hurry and join the League of Smart Investors who are taking their finances to the next level.
Anyway, anyhow, you know, say you go feel me.
On the 21st of February 2005, former President Olusegun Obasanjo inaugurated the National Political Reforms Conference, NPRC. The conference witnessed the presentation of the research for the Nigeria out-of-country voting, otherwise called the diaspora voting. And now, 19 years after the presentation of the research, the Nigeria 10th Assembly and the diaspora, which way?
Diaspora voting has become a common practice in advanced democracy. For Nigeria, it is still something that is possible. We can't be a total exception. But our major challenge in Nigeria is how do we get the data? How do we get the information? How do we collect this information for the possibility of this diaspora voting? Because I understand that most of our brothers and sisters abroad do not submit their information in the missions abroad, and so it's always very difficult for us to collect this information. However, if those in diaspora will collaborate with the 10th Assembly, there's a possibility that it's possible that within this period of time that we can have this diaspora voting, come into place.
21st October 2023, the media was awash with the breaking news that the Senate is set to amend the Electoral Act to allow for diaspora voting. Senate to introduce diaspora voting mandates electoral transmission of election results. This was first contained in a communique issued at the end of a 2-day retreat for senators of the 10th Assembly, facilitated by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS, in Ikot Ekpene, Akwa Ibom State. The Senate's majority leader, Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, held the hopes of the Nigeria diaspora up with that news. But where are we with the 10th Assembly right now regarding the amendment of the electoral law promised on 21st October 2023?
There is no country that wants to wish away over 20 million of its populace, taking into consideration the level of investment they are also doing in this country. And I'm sure Nigeria is also thinking towards a major, involvement of those in diaspora, because this voting also gives them the right. However, everything has a process. We cannot just amend, the electoral law in one day. There has to be a process. It has to come from the House of Reps, from the Senate, and everybody will come together again to see how these things are amended. Then we'll take the president's consent into it, and it will put to law. So for us, we still have time to do this. In the next 2 years, we should be able to, see what we can do to ensure that this thing is put in place. But there is no 100% assurance. I cannot give that as an individual, because it also has to do with the House, agreeing on this diaspora voting. I am aware that most of the people in the House will want this diaspora voting, but it has to follow the process. I will need to go from one step to the other, and that's what we're doing currently. I know the bill running from that of the Senate, the amendment that is also coming from us. Everything combined together, we should be in a better position by 2025 to say this is the extent we've gone, and then the possibility of this coming to place.
The bill establishing the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission stipulates that there shall be a board with 12 diaspora members, but since its establishment, no such board exists. Given that your Ronsanya report is going to be implemented within a 12-week deadline, and NIDCOM will be an agency under the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sir, what's the essence of Mr. President constituting the board of NIDCOM that will be dissolved in the next 12 weeks? Are Nigerians missing something here?
We're not missing anything. The most important thing is that the Federal Ministry is going to play a supervisory role to NIDCOM. So the board of NIDCOM will be in place, and that was why on the 29th of last month in February, I moved the motion that the board should be established, because it's a major fact for NIDCOM to be driven very well. The board of directors constituting of our members in diaspora are supposed to be in place to effectively run the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. The Federal Ministry is going to run mainly a supervisory function, like they're going to do for other agencies too. NIDCOM will be an exception, and it's going to run the way it's supposed to run with the board of directors.
In a recent widely published open letter to you that is still trending across different media, you were asked the critical question of how you'd like history to remember your time as House Committee Chairman. Could you let Nigerians in on this?
Before I will start with that of the chairman as the House Committee on Diaspora, they say charity begins at home. I represent Owerri Federal Constituency, that's Owerri North, Owerri West, and Owerri Municipal. I want to be remembered in this federal constituency, and that's why I'm putting all efforts to ensure that I give them an effective representation by my legislative activities and also attracting the dividends of democracy. And so that legacy is something I want to leave. I want to beat the record of those that have been in this position before my time. And because the people of Owerri Federal Constituency gave me a massive support and vote. I will also need to deliver in that line. Then secondly, as the chairman of House Committee on Diaspora, I also want to leave a legacy. And that's what we started. We started the end of December, met with my committee members, and we've been putting a lot of things in place. I've also been discussing with those in diaspora from all walks of life and in different parts of the continent. I've met with them, Zoom meeting and online meetings. Some of them have also sent their representation. And based on that, we are putting a lot of things in place. We've also gotten their challenges, like we rightly discussed, that of diaspora voting, that of diaspora investment, and other challenges that runs, in diaspora. And we're taking these challenges both in the African countries and other continents of the world. And as much as possible, we'll sort out these challenges. And I think by the time we are done with most of these things, our name will be written in gold.